right?
Okay, you're on.
Months and months ago, and it's like about 12 pages, and then I was like been so busy the last 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, how am I going to memorize 12 pages worth of speaking? So look, here we go anyway, right? So listen, the topic I want to talk about is this, is how many of you here, right?
Thanks.
How many of you here would like to meet your absolute ultimate soulmate? Meaning that you think that this woman or man is the absolutely most attractive person in the world to you personally, right? But not only that, right? She also thinks you're the absolute most attractive person in the world as well. Okay? So that's what this topic's about. Now, 80% of success is showing up. So, you know, we might have a small group here, but there's something about the universe brings people together for the information that they want to learn and understand, right? So there's chances are that there's going to be things that I'm going to talk about tonight that are going to nail it for you guys if you want to meet your ultimate soulmate. So it takes a lot of courage to change, correct? Like it takes a lot of courage to change yourself. It reminds me of the story, my 6-year-old daughter, her name's Sophia. Sophia means wisdom. And Sophia goes up to her older sister she was about 12 at the time, and she says to her older sister, listen Emily, right, if...
Don't move around too much, mate, because you're upsetting the...
Listen Emily, if I had no feet, and if I had no hands, right, if I had no feet and if I had no feet, would I wear shoes? And Emily looks at Sophia, the 6-year-old, and goes, "Well, no. If you didn't have any feet, you wouldn't wear shoes." So she says to her, "Well, how come you're wearing a bra?" So listen, I've got one rule and one warning about my talk. Okay, the warning is this: is don't believe a word I say. Why do I say that? It's because it's my journey, okay? So it's dangerous just to believe something is absolutely critical true as it is to believe something is absolutely not true at all. Do you understand that?
In other words, there's grey area in between.
So yeah, you don't even want to believe something's absolutely fact or something that's absolutely not fact in life. The other thing is that I have a rule that it is my journey, right? And you know, what I talk about has worked for a lot of other people as well, because I've worked with, you know, a number of different people over the years quite a lot. What I'm saying by this is that if you give this stuff a go, right, see if it works, right? I'm not saying it's going to work, but you want to know if it does work, yeah, or not, right? It's like this woman comes up to Gandhi and says, Gandhi, do you think sugar makes my son hyperactive? And Gandhi says, look, come back in 3 months and I'll tell you. So 3 months later the woman comes back and says to Gandhi, does sugar, make kids kind of hyperactive? And Gandhi says, yes they do. Yes it does. And the woman says, well, how come it took you 3 months to figure that one out? And he said, well, I had to go away and test it out, right, to make sure it's true. So what I'm saying to you is, let's do the same. So here's my story. I think I would have been 25, and my relationships up to the age of 25 were basically in and out of relationships. The maximum I lasted was about 3 weeks. 3 months. 3 months with a girl. But I had ability to go through a few. It was like 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on, 3 months off, I remember at one stage, right? And I got to 25 and I saw this documentary on TV. It was on John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and I don't know if you guys know much about these guys.
Of course.
Yeah? Right?
But,
Eh? Yeah, the Beatles haircut. Yeah. But the thing that interests me, right, that really fascinated me was this way that John Lennon was drawn to Yoko Ono, and this kind of like intense relationship they had, and you know, to me, Yoko Ono wasn't particularly physically attractive, but yet, and John Lennon, you know, could have had any woman in the world that he wanted, but yet there was some sort of intense relationship, soulmate kind of relationship that drew them together, and anybody who looks at that in that way would probably understand that, right? And she was Japanese and he was English. So that, for some reason, that was really kind of grew my attention, and I started wondering that maybe the reason I was still single at 25 was the fact that I haven't actually met my soulmate. And so I think that's what sparked off this journey that I was going to meet my soulmate. Now, very shortly after that, I met my first wife, so to speak. I mean, she was from Hong Kong. She was Chinese, and I married her because we were best of friends, and to you know, so she could remain in the country in a way. But we had this very. I think I set up in my mind that I wanted to meet someone who was Japanese, but I didn't actually know the difference between Japanese and Chinese at that stage. Look, I grew up in the bottom half of New Zealand, and there's not much there but sheep and whales that come past, right? And the only Chinese national that was in the area was the guy that ran the fish and chip shop, and everybody in town was like really proud that they knew Mr. Wong, who ran the fish and chip shop. So it was a pretty raw country, and we didn't know much about the world. But for some reason, I realised that I had drawn that Sarah into my life. Right, her name is Hong Tong, but I call her Sarah for short. So, and she was Chinese, and it was something I thought, wow, you know, like, and it was definitely a really interesting relationship because she couldn't speak any English when I met her. I met her within 2 weeks of her arriving in the country, signing up for the English course. And our very first date was sitting down in a restaurant over a Chinese-English dictionary, trying to communicate. But yet, what it taught me was this, that there was something underneath all that was drawing us together. And I felt it, right, on a deeper level. And you know, that interests me. Anyway, that relationship lasted for about 7 years, but I knew there was someone else coming into my life. I couldn't get it out of my kind of thought pattern that there was someone else coming into my life. So it just struck me one day in the shower, and I thought, I've got to get out. So I walked out of the shower and said, oh, the relationship's over, which seems a bit brutal, but on one level, Sarah understood that as well. She knew that I couldn't commit at the same level that I wanted to or she wanted to. So anyway, I thought, okay, then I know I'm going to go to another level of understanding this idea of meeting your soulmate, because I knew that consciously I'd drawn her into my life because of this thought pattern with John Lennon and this Yoko Ono. So I spent 4 years with a goal in front of me to meet my soulmate and try and understand it. Because I knew that some people had these really intense relationships and they just knew they met someone that was just wonderful, you know, like, and I thought there was a part of me that wanted that, desired that, and wasn't really going to settle for anything less. So I went on this journey, and I learned some things. I went through a series of relationships, and each relationship got better and better and better and better through a process of kind of what I'm going to talk about quickly later. But the moment I met Mara, right, the moment I saw her, without even speaking to her, this thought came into my head, this is the girl that's coming into your life. And it was really, really strange. I just knew it. And we sat down together, we went and had a cup of tea. Within 2 minutes of us talking together, we were talking about going back to South America together and travelling over to Argentina, where she comes from, and all the rest of it, within 2 minutes of meeting each other. Okay? Now the interesting thing is this, is that she didn't recognise it. She didn't recognise it. For 3 months she was telling me, look, I know you tell me that you're intensely in love with me and all this attraction's going on, but she's saying to me, I don't feel it. Look, I'm sorry, I don't feel it. But every time I'd ring her up, she'd go, yeah, okay, we'll go for coffee, we'll go out and all the rest of it. But I knew it. There's some part of me that knew it, right? Until one day we sat down at a cafe in Leichhardt, and there was some part of me that was really frustrated. And I says to her, look, the only difference between you and I is this, is that I'm not afraid to fall in love with you, but you are afraid to fall in love with you. And at that point, she just cracked and she just bawled her eyes out in the middle of this cafe, and then you felt the energy between us just go like that. Go like that. Like it was just, she was so drawn, to me, that you felt it, right? And, I remember sitting down with her one time and I says to her, okay, listen, tell me the six key things that you're drawn to me. What are the 6 key things that you think that you're attracted to me for? And she wrote down those 6 key things. I wrote down the other 6 key things, and without looking at it, and they were exactly the same. The 6 things that were important to her were the same 6 key things that were important to me, which brought us together. So that is a core of Ian, what we'll talk about as well. So moving on, is that you've got to understand this, right? Is the world is based on duality, right? This is a concept in terms of how do you bring this kind of person into life. The world is based on duality, meaning hot, cold, right, wrong, up, down, yeah? Inner and outer, okay? Now, your inner world determines your outer world, okay? Your inner world determines your outer world, and the biggest challenge that we have in terms of meeting this kind of person at this kind of level is that most of us are operating fairly unconsciously in terms of relationships, right? I mean, you meet someone who you're attracted to, you just know that you're just attracted to her, like, she walks out of a crowd and you start dancing with her, and the next minute you're in love with her, right? And you have no idea where those feelings come from or how they even occurred, right? Yeah? It's like, and your mate's going like, I don't see it in her, or, you know what I mean? And you go, what are you talking about? I feel this way, you know what I mean? It's like, how does that happen? How does it happen? Which was one of the questions that I wanted to think. So listen, look at it this way, right? Relationships happen on 3 different levels, right? You've got the spiritual level of a relationship, like the soulmate level of a relationship, yeah? And then you've got this emotional level of connection, and then you've got this mental level of connection as well, yeah? If you get all 3 of those aligned, you'll hit into the spiritual soulmate. Is how I feel it. It's more about my feeling of the process I went through for 4 years before I met Mara. It's alignment through mental, emotional, and spiritual, and you get that alignment, and then you feel it all the way through, right? So, and I'll give you a quick story, right, to interest you a little bit more about spirituality in terms of spiritual connection at the highest level. There's a psychiatrist in New York called Dr. Brian Weiss. I don't know if anybody's heard Dr. Brian Weiss at all. No? He's kind of an interesting guy, right? Even though he's a psychiatrist, he's actually interested in past lives. Now, whether you believe in past lives or not, it's okay. It's either way, from my perspective. But listen, so what he used to do is he used to put these people under hypnosis and supposedly regress them into their past lives. And that's how he used to do his therapy, in a way. And he discovered, right, he had these 2 clients, this guy Pedro and this woman Wendy, I think her name is. And he discovered that when he would take them into these past lives back in, like the 17th or 15th century, where, I don't know, where they're like, maybe he's the warrior on a horse or some, I don't know. He realised that these 2 people were were showing the past life from as if they were in the same life, but from different perspectives. If you can understand that, it was like one person was telling the same story from that perspective, and the other person was telling the story from a different perspective, but in the same story. And as a past life therapist, right, he thought this is really fascinating, of course, right? But because he was constricted by these very, very strong rules and laws, in terms of how he couldn't introduce these two people together, right?
Shame.
But what he could do is this: he could set up their appointments so they were one after another. Yeah, so that's what he did. Pedro went in first. They had his session, and then Wendy, the woman, was waiting in the room. Afterwards, so they had to pass each other, and Pedro walks out, he passes it, he looks at it, and he observes it, and he says he looked at it, and they were just like intensely looking at each other like that, as if they had known each other before. And then he just carried on walking, right? And he thought, that's so interesting. He had a problem. Pedro was flying out to go back and live in Mexico the very next week, so he had one more opportunity. So he set it up again, okay? And this time Wendy went in first, and she walked past and she noticed Pedro in the thing, and it was the same, this incredible intensity of connection between these two people, and then he disappeared and he flew away to Mexico, right? Or was about to fly away to Mexico. Anyway, he had he jumped on a plane, went to Mexico, and he had a transition flight at Miami, or Florida, right? And he had to get off the plane, and whatever, and he hopped back in the queue to pick up his ticket, and he turned around, and here was Wendy standing right behind him. This is a true story. Standing right behind him in the queue, and of course they recognised each other from the thing. They started talking to each other. They got their seats together on the plane, connected together, and 6 months later they were married, had kids, and all the rest of it. Yeah, true, absolute true story. So when I say spirituality, right, that's the kind of level of spirituality. Yeah, as a level of that, and so coming back down to there's emotional and there's mental levels. Okay, so the thing you have to recognise is this, right? Is that wherever you're at the moment, in terms of your relationships, right? Whether you've got a girlfriend, haven't got a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever the result is at the moment, yeah, the result is determined by your actual thinking that you've got on your psychology is creating a result, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. Okay, so your thinking is actually creating that result, because there's inner laws in terms of what creates the outer law. Okay, you can't do anything in the world without thinking something first. Even if you smoke, you have to have a thought to have a cigarette before you go have a cigarette. Okay, even if you have to have a thought to go up to that person to ask her for a dance, right? So thinking is the very first thing that before you take action. So if you create, if you want to create permanent change in your outer world in terms of relationships, you have to change this internal programming inside yourself, this internal thinking. So, one of the ways in terms of changing your thinking is giving your conscious mind, telling it, using your conscious mind to give your unconscious mind instruction, right? So if you tell your unconscious mind intensely, emotionally, and repetitively, right? I am attracting my soulmate. I'm attracting my soulmate. Okay, you will begin to change your thinking on some level, right? And you'll get a different result in the outside world. It's Very, very simple concept, but it's also very powerful. So if you want to go down a level, you have to change your thinking. Because if you don't actually change your thinking, like emotionally, repetitively, intensely, guess what happens? Your little brain goes through the same pathways and gives you the same result over and over again. Yeah? And particularly, I mean, I see mates going on date after date after date on the internet, right? I've got plenty of friends my age now, getting close to 50, who have grown up with the internet dating boom, and they don't have any shortage of dates they go through in a year, but yet nothing is translating into relationship. Why? Because they're expecting the outer world to change when their inner world is exactly the same. Yeah? So you have to figure out how to change this inner world. And there's lots of ways to do it, right? Yeah? New thoughts equal new actions. Yeah, hardwiring. So, okay, so here we go, right? So, how does your attraction patterns actually start off? How do you, how does it happen? Like, someone walks out of the crowd and you're just drawn to that person, you think, God, I'm in love, and it's like, where do these feelings come from? How does it all happen? Okay, here's how it happens. And it's kind of scary, really. Okay, it's like this, is that, and you ask any psychologist this, right? They'll tell you, like your values and most of your actual thinking and programming, right, happens between the age of 1 and 8. Okay, like 50% of your actual values and program and thinking, believe it or not, and behaviour is actually 50% is actually in place up to the age of 5 years old, right? And 80% is in place by the time you're 8, and then 15% by the time you're 15. So what that means is the person that you're actually attracted to unconsciously at the moment, right, is actually related. 80% chance is related to the experiences that you had between the age of 1 and 8. If you can understand that. And if you've got, if you've had young kids, right, like Sophia, right, she's 6 now, there's behavioural things in her that I saw when she was an absolute baby. She used to fight and like she had this, now that she's 6, she's still doing the same kind of things in the world. You know what I mean? It's seriously ingrained by the time she's 6. And it's the same with us. It's the same with us. Our core values are in place by the time we're 8 years old. So how do these core attraction patterns build up, right? Quite simply, through positive experiences, or negative experiences, like powerful reference experiences happen. Like, your parents were divorced before you were the age of 7, or your father mistreated your mother, or maybe one of your parents passed away when you were younger, or your mother ran away with a milkman or something, right? There's certain reference experiences that you get growing up with your parents that give you a pattern, and out of those experiences, right, you determine laws of attraction for you. Yeah? Now that one experience can mean many, many different things to different people. Like you kick a dog, right? One dog will turn around and bite you on the leg. Another dog will yelp running away. Another dog will just cower down, right? Same experience. You kick them, but different things can happen. It's the same in terms of human beings, right? We have these reference experiences, and we all do different things, depending on beliefs, values, all sorts of different things that are going on in our head at the time. For argument's sake, one person can be dumped by a girl or a guy, and their life just crumbles and crashes around them, where another person can be dumped by a person in a relationship, and they go, thank God from that, I can now go out and find someone who really suits me. Same experience, totally different perception. And you see it with money. One guy can lose all his money and jump out of the building, another guy will lose all his money and go, cool, okay, I'm going to make it again. And then make it again. So it's not the experience that makes the difference to us as human beings, it's our interpretation of that experience. that makes the difference.
What do you mean by interpretation, Bruce?
So, and what I mean by that is say your father abandoned your mother, okay, and one of the patterns that can set up is you hear this, you chase after men who are uncommitted. A lot of women out there doing that, is that right? They're chasing after men who are uncommitted. Okay? So
all men are married until proven single.
all men are married until they're proven.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like what can happen is if your mother was mistreated by your father or whatever like that, you can set up a law inside your brain that says, I'm only ever going to chase after uncommitted men so that I don't go through the hurt and pain that my mother went through because she committed to my father. So you can set up a law like that. Or there might be something where your mother, your father might have mistreated your mother, and the way she managed that was by being very passive in the relationship. So when you get into a relationship, you meet someone who you're constantly being good for and who you can be good to hold on to the relationship. So all these kind of laws and patterns kind of set up in this kind of way. If your parents broke, and guess what? Like you've got to understand this, right? Is that you've got to take responsibility at some level. You've got to say to yourself, hang on, I've created this experience in my life. The relationship. I created wherever I'm at in a relationship right now, be it good, bad, indifferent or whatever, I've created it. So that's where you've got to get to, right? And whatever you're set for, like you might be wanting someone who's, in your heart, you might want someone who's like peaceful and calm, and then you just end up with some guy who's an angry bastard. How does that happen? Do you know what I mean? You can get the opposite to what you want. You might want someone who really is, you want someone who's really attracted to you, and you end up going out with women or guys who are just floating around and chasing after every other bloody guy at the same time as they're trying to go out with you. Yeah? So it's like, how do you know your attraction pattern's set up? What are you set up for? Just have a look at your result today. Have a look at your result today, and you'll get some kind of understanding. Okay? So you are creating your relationships. You're creating whether they're good, bad, whether they're working, whether they're not working, whether they're a struggle, whether they're really loving or passionate or whatever. Okay? You are creating them on some level. So you have to take responsibility. Okay? Now a lot of people out there play victim out there in relationships. They're a victim to their weight, their height. It's not my fault I'm this height. It's not my fault I'm this weight. Or it's not my fault and of course everybody wants to blame their parents, right? My relationship's this way because this is the way my parents treat me. Okay, fine. And here's another thing too, is that complaining about being single is the worst thing that you can ever do, right?
Yeah.
Why is it the worst thing you can ever do? I mean, on some kind of universal law, we know that, and this is my own belief and my own experience, is that whatever energy you put out in terms of thought, you will get back. You will get back, right? And complaining's the worst thing you can do, and you'll get some people that go, well, of course I'm complaining, look how crappy my life is, and I'd say to them, no, your life's crappy because you're complaining, and don't stand near me.
In other words, the more you talk about it, the more you're attracted to it.
The more you talk about it, the more you're attracted. Yeah, so you just got to be aware. You've got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Not you guys, because you guys haven't had the damage of a few relationships. But remember this talk. Years to come. So the easiest way to change is really just to change. To change your psychology, change your thinking. Yeah, and So look, here's what I recommend is just don't complain for the next 7 days. Yeah? Why 7 days? Because you've probably got a whole lot of residual kind of crap out there that's coming through your life. So you've got to kind of like, you know, cut it off for 7 days. Don't complain about anyone. Try not even to think about complaining about anyone. Yeah? Just do it for 7 days and see what a difference it makes in terms of the experience with people as well. Okay, so listen, there's no such thing as a victim, as an attractive victim. Alright? People that blame their height, people that blame this, and why, no such thing as attractive victim. Okay? Because what you're after is this, is you're after acceptance. You're after self-acceptance within yourself. Right? Because, and this is a real key thing, the more that you can self-accept, the more you can actually accept someone else. Yeah? And the more people will feel it. Because self-acceptance is actually one of the greatest qualities in terms of attractiveness. Because why? Is because people love to be accepted by other people.
But Bruce, that goes along with those 80-year-olds that I've interviewed and why they've been in a relationship so long as they accept the other people for who they are. And that's probably a reflection of them accepting themselves, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they get to a point that whatever, you may not realise this, but I know it, I understand, I believe it, right? Is that if there's anything that triggers you off in someone else, it's actually some issue within inside yourself. And I can certainly demonstrate, that. And the fastest way to shift the person is within inside yourself. And marriages and relationships are a classic case of, like we've all been, when you've been in relationships, you're always trying to change your partner, or you always wish your partner would do something differently or react something differently. But I can tell you, the moment that something shifts in that relationship, you've shifted it within yourself. It's not the partner, and that's the kind of journey that you need to go through in a relationship. Is constantly shifting stuff within yourself that you're not accepting, and it's the same with meeting yourself. I mean, when I met Mara, there was one thing I couldn't accept. I had this really, really old car, and I thought, this is going to look really bad. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like 27. I would have been 32 or something like that, and I had no money at the time. And I had a really, really bad old car, and I actually parked it around the street, and then went and met her because I was so unaccepting of the fact that I had this bad old car, right? And we walked over to her car, and her car was like 10 times worse than mine. Not only that, like smoke come out the back of it when she started it off. So on some level, and I realized, and I kind of felt really like there was a lesson there in the universe. It like dealt it to me hard because it was the thing that was worrying me the most. Of like if I have to take her in my car to go somewhere on our first date, this is going to kill the whole experience for her. And there was just a lesson there for me. And so I understand that. So the other thing, right, is about attraction. That's really incredibly amazing. Is this? And there's this idea that like you put out there and you get back. Okay, do you guys kind of relate to that? If you put out on the phone, you want to get anger coming back at you. You want to get people hanging up in your ear. Just get in there and telemarket angrily, right? See how much comes back to you. These guys, I work for these guys in the telemarketing team, right? You just get on there angry and see how well you trigger the anger in the other person. Okay? So listen, so here's what you do, as you work on self-acceptance, yeah? Now out of self-acceptance, and what I mean by self-acceptance is anything that you don't accept about yourself, be it money, be it the way you look, be it social status, be it where you live. I mean, anything that you can find about yourself that you don't accept, your looks, whatever. Okay? Figure out how to either change it, right? Like if you feel that you're not, you're not fit enough, either go to the gym, right? Or figure out in your own mind how to accept your body shape. One of those two things, either do something about it, or shift it in your mind if it's something that you can't. Yeah? So figure out what you don't accept of yourself, work on accepting it, okay? Because then when you work on accepting it, right, what you can do is this, is that you lose the fear of rejection. You can't ever be rejected by someone if you 100% accept yourself. You know that? Because rejection, and when you feel it, is about a part of you that you don't accept. You know, oh, I shouldn't be in this job, or you know, oh, I haven't got the right to impose on them, you know, telemarketing or whatever, right? You know, or I'm not good enough, you know, they are up there and I'm there. Whatever it is I can tell you, rejection is something within yourself that you haven't figured out to accept, right? So here's what you want to do: is you want to go out there and you want to genuinely figure out how to give compliments to women that you're attracted to, or women anyway. You just give compliments, genuine compliments. So particularly girls that you're attracted to, just try this strategy, okay? And or men that you're attracted to, just say, you know, that's a beautiful pair of shoes.
It works.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Of course it works,
I
right?
accept my shoes.
You know?
Do you accept?
Don't do what I do. This boss I had, right? I worked in this company. It was like, you know, 90 women and one guy, and I had a female boss.
What's the company?
It's part of Thompson Publishing now, right?
Oh yes,
And,
I
and,
remember.
and Denise, my boss, used to buy a pair of shoes every bloody week.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, "Oh, they're beautiful shoes you're buying," I said to her, "Christ, you fucking like." You spend all your money on shoes, you buy shoes every week, right? And so, and I never saw another pair of shoes come into the office after that. And look, figure out things that you genuinely, you know, attractive, you know, and get comfortable in expressing it, or even get comfortable in feeling it, right? Because even on some level, you know, it's not always comfortable to even feel that you're attracted to someone out there. I know that because when I saw this, I thought, yeah, I understand this. You know, if you give out attractive comments, right? They're going. The concept is this, right? If you want to get 10 times more people attracted to you, and this works. Well, at least I know it works because I do these things, right? And you guys work with me, so you know I do these things.
Yeah,
Yeah?
that's why we're here.
Love you, Bruce.
Right. So listen, you know, and I like women to be attracted to me, even though I'm married, right? So
Very
I go, you know, Jesus, you look beautiful today. I saw my old flatmate Ashley. I told you this story.
Oh,
right?
really? Yeah.
This is my old flatmate from 15 years ago. The moment I met Mara, my wife, she hated her, and I left the flat. I haven't spoken to her for 15 years. I met her a few weeks ago, and she'd actually we were really close and very close, and
Should have given me her number, Bruce.
and she'd just gone to the gym and she looked like, and I says to her name's Ashley, I says, Jesus, Ashley, you look so sexy. Like it just come out of nowhere because I was kind of working on this process in my head. And she just kind of like lit up and like, you know, she just was really like, you know, and you know, you could see she's, oh, you know, you're so attractive, Bruce, was kind of what she was saying. So, well, at least that's my interpretation of what she kind of said. But listen, it's true.
We'll let you
If
get
you
away
can
with that
find
one.
a way in order to even feel it
Yeah.
and look at them, you know, like I remember seeing this woman on the bus ages ago, and she was so attractive from what I thought, and I looked at her and she looked at me, and her whole physiology changed, and she kind of, you know, walked off the bus differently because I had given her something.
Yeah.
Yeah? But here's the thing, is that anybody who comes up to you and says, hey, you're really attractive, I don't know, something about you, I love your hair, your immediate response is, gosh, this guy's an attractive guy. Do you know what I'm saying? You all of a sudden, it's kind of like, you see the attractiveness back in the person that says it. And that's all you see is you feel it in a way. You know, that you feel, it's like, you know, we talk about some telemarketing, transferring those feelings through the phone. It's the same within relationships with women. If you can, like the first thing that happened to me was when I tried the strategy, right? Attractive, okay? I see this nice looking chick at the counter at Fitness First, and I've always thought something about it's like really good, really attractive. And I'm gonna just tell her that she's attractive. Or something. I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say something. I go to do it and I think, I can't do it. Because all of a sudden this stuff comes up to me from back when I'm your age, probably. Like this sleazy guy trying to pick up a one night stand and all the rest of it, right? You know what I mean? It was like...
And I'm married and all that
exactly,
stuff.
well, yeah, I'm married and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
And seriously, you know, this stuff has to come up. And that's kind of fascinating from my perspective. I'm kind of thinking, that's really interesting because I've always known there's been certain barriers around certain women in my life that I've thought very attractive, but I've never really been able to connect with them. Yeah. If I'm not that attracted to a woman, it's okay. I don't care. I can connect with them very easily. But if someone's really, like stunning looking, and I know I'm going on about looks all the time, and I'm not that shit, but it's just a good space to think about, right? So anyway, I know how to shift. I shifted all this feeling around being 100% comfortable and just saying, hey, I don't know, something about you is really attractive, and then just walking away because I'm married. I've no interest in actually trying to take her out for a date. I just wanted to get rid of these feelings out of me so that I felt good about saying something else. But and David knows this experiment because I was telling him about it, right? And you wouldn't believe it. Within 2 weeks, it was like my wife's not here now. She was home, but she's really sick, unfortunately. I might have adjusted my torchlight. But seriously, there's like women, unbelievable that the opportunities that were coming up, wasn't it? And I was telling you about it, and I was telling my mate Pancho as well. It's like I go sit on the plane, and I'm in this intense conversation with absolutely, a beautiful-looking Lebanese woman who connects, has done exactly the same things as me in life in some areas, and we had this very intense conversation. And she's saying, come back to my house and I'll cook you dinner, but it wasn't going down that track because I says, look, I'll help you. She's got to do a big speech at Darling Harbour in November, and I says to her, listen, if you're going to do this, then you've got to sell it in hard, and I'll show you how to structure the talk. So I'm going, and she's she's going to help me with a couple of things, but the thing that fascinated them most, and it was around the same time as Ashley turned up in my life, my old flatmate, right? And my ex-wife from Hong Kong around the same week. So, and Ashley and I, we were very attracted to each other. We were flatmates, nothing happened, but we were always hanging around together. We went to the seminars and stuff together, but just in that space of 2 weeks of learning how to do that, right? I was amazed at the amount of women that were drawn into my life for various reasons. Some really unusual experiences.
But Bruce, I can also say as a testimony to that as well.
Yeah.
Just prior to when we did our first talk together back in '97, when you were at the flooding with Ashley back then, Bruce gave me an exercise to do, which we were about to give a talk about 2 weeks out. And I said, hey Bruce, there's this lady I keep bumping into. I met her at a movie queue, I met her at this, and I met her at that. Three coincidences in 1 year. It was just, and we couldn't believe the triangulation of connections with other people. And Bruce said to me, I said, look Bruce, it's like this. I'm like this, penniless, I'm this. And he says, no, I'll stop you right there, David. He says, you remember when you said it to me in the Saturday Armour? He says, accept yourself right where you are right now. And the way how he said it to me, I thought, oh, he must be right. And then literally, a week after we did the talk, this self-same lady that I had all these coincidental meetings with, I went out on a date like with her, and it all happened for young and old on that specific night.
Yeah.
And it was all because if I didn't listen, when I met this lady, I imagined her to be way up here or whatever because she really carried herself in a particular way. But in fact, that was just the way how she dressed when she went out. She just had a lot of personal pride with the way she dressed. So I had an inflated opinion of where her status in life was. Well, it was nothing more than just good pride of, a lady who dresses well. Nothing more, nothing less. When I went around to a place, she was about as tiny as I am, that kind of thing. And all these other things, she wasn't in any high-paying job or whatever. She was working part-time. I was working part-time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You remember that then?
Yeah.
And I just could not get over within a matter of putting into practice what Bruce said of self-acceptance at the time. Pow! It was like, a flood. Anyway, back to you.
I mean, if you understand the power of thought, right? And I don't know, what level you believe this or not, right? But all I'm saying to you is just give this a go, and you'll understand the power of your own potential and the power of your own thought, right? Like David and I went out to an event the other day, and this was a couple of months ago when we decided we were going to do this and start these again, right? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this exercise. I'm going to lie on my bed before I go out. And Dave and I were going out to this event, and I thought, okay, I'm going to draw someone to me that I'm really attracted to, and she's really attracted to me. As research. Right? Purely research. It was just coincidental. My wife was away for the weekend. It was purely research. Yeah, and David was out to me, and David can verify this fact.
We have to
Correct?
sacrifice ourselves on the altar of love in order to prove that this can be true. It's just what we have to go through for you
Need more
folks.
candidates to research.
Eh?
Need more candidates to help you research.
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Lee.
I used to go out, have a friend of mine, and we used to go out. She used to have this. She used to introduce guys to me. She'd say, "Excuse me, what's your name?" And he goes, oh. She said, "Why don't you never talk to strangers?" And she'd always introduce him to me. You see, you should take some of the apprentices here with you, and with the point of view of introducing them, right? Okay.
Hey, with them introducing them to women.
Introducing
Yes,
them.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's your name?
But it might be
Makes my
better if...
spreads here.
Well, no, they don't have to do anything. They
It's
have
the
to
mental
change
state.
their internal experience. You got to change your internal
If you
experience.
change the internal experience,
You understand
the
that.
outside experience
then
will
there's
follow.
nothing,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can't achieve, really, apart from once you understand how to get that alignment within yourself. The journey is the alignment within yourself. If you want to be a multi-millionaire, right, you still got to figure out the journey of how to. You can't just go, give me the money, because I guarantee you have issues around money on some level. Because money's a very emotional thing. We never get enough of it and all these kind of things. You have to work on a level where, where it just is an alignment.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe
Summary.
10 minutes, is that all right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, so we went out that night, right? And I'm going, and this is something you should think about before you go out on a Saturday night, right?
This is how we.
Yeah, get your head like this. Is just relax, lie on your bed, and just get yourself really calm and visualise yourself being drawn to someone and someone being drawn to you. And you've got to do it very intensely, very emotionally, so you actually feel it, not just in your head.
Yeah,
But
feel it in your body.
emotionally, mentally, just feel that process of someone drawing to you and you getting drawn to them. Yeah? And then get a sense of that feeling and just go out that night and just maintain that feeling through the night, see what happens. Just see what happens. Yeah? I mean, we went out and interesting kind of experiences, right? Where I look around and there was only one reasonable-looking girl that I thought, that's who I'd be attracted to, right? Anyway, I sat there and I'm just sitting there doing nothing as I normally do, And then I look up, I hear this hi, I look up, and she's sitting right there beside me. Right there beside me. And we were just, incredibly drawn. I left, actually, we left at 11 o'clock and went on from 12 o'clock, so we actually left before her. Probably because I was feeling really uncomfortable about the amount of attraction that was going on there.
I went off for a
It's just
dance
an
with a friend of
interesting
mine,
experience.
and when I came back, he was sitting next to this girl who'd come down to sit next to him and chat to him. It was just amazing.
You should be, go out.
Yeah.
The problem is I have these blockages about being married, so nothing ever kind of happened. But I'm lucky.
We can
I've never
overcome-
met anybody more attractive in the world but my wife. And I don't know if you've ever had experience where you've kind of fallen in love with someone and you go through that amazing, that kind of amazing kind of process for a couple of months, and then it kind of dies off, and then the reality kind of cracks, and you see who she is and he sees who you are, or whatever like that. With Mara, that process lasted for 5 years. 5 years. So, there's levels of attraction that we block. So just I want to finish up now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So listen, here's the thing that most people do is that we aim too low in terms of who we want to draw into our life. Yeah. We're aiming too low. So what you got to do is you've got to get your list of the 6 key things that are most important to you and a partner. Right? Draw up a list of the 6 most important things in a partner for you. Be it, how sexy she might look, how she communicates to you, perhaps. Maybe she's your best friend. Put on your list that she's attracted to you as much as you're attracted to her, perhaps. Yeah? And how do you identify those 6 key things? Is you go back through your past relationships and you work out what you were attracted to in that person, and what you're attracted to in that person, and what you're attracted to in that person. So you work on your past kind of history to figure out your 6 key things that are important to you in a person. Right? Now what you've got there is values. Values, and they're not the person, they're actually values within you that are important within you. Do you understand it? They're values within you that are important within you. And a friend of mine, exactly what I did with him and what I've done with a number of other people, is just clarify those values. But here's the real secret, is you live them. You live them. So if honesty is important to you and a partner, then you get yourself brutally honest in the way you communicate. If you want to meet someone who's sexy, right, who's absolutely hot, then you have to figure out within you how to feel the same way. You know what I mean? You have to go to the gym, you have to get yourself trim, you have to shift whatever thing around you that whatever, yeah? So you get yourself feeling at the level that you want to meet at. And that's really important. Yeah? And if the person's a good communicator, if you want them to communicate feelings, how they feel or whatever, then you have to open up on the same level. Right? And why is this so important? Yeah, remember going back to when I said to you, Mara and I, we sat down in a cafe and I said to her, tell me what are the 6 key things that drew you to me? She wrote down the list and I wrote down my list and I had a look at them, they were exactly the same. Yeah? People are attracted on values. Yeah, what's important to you is important to them. Right? And that's how the core of attraction works. If someone plays tennis and you're interested in tennis, you're kind of attracted on a level and talking about tennis. It's the same in a holistic approach as well. So you get those 6 key things in your mind, you work out, you live them, and the stronger you are within those values, the more that person will fit into those values. And guess what? If you identify the 6 key values within you and you become congruent with them and you live those values, it doesn't matter what other issues are going on in your life between each other, right? Those values will always hold that relationship together through all the dramas, all the turmoil, all the frustrations that you have to go through to grow. to become more closer to those values. But it's those 6 key values that hold the actual relationship together to grow. And as I say, this is my understanding. Yeah? So that's my little spiel tonight.
Yeah. One more question, Bruce.
Yeah.
The soulmate. Do you think everybody gets soulmates at the end of the day?
At the beginning of the day too.
I think if you're here, you probably want a soulmate. You're here tonight. I guess people come into your life to serve purposes, and relationships come into your life as well. You know what I mean? Allow yourself to evolve through relationships. What I discovered when I understood these 6 key values within me, I knew what they were, right? What I discovered was I was drawn and I was attracted to different women, and I would recognise, you know, the 3 or 4 that were connecting, and then I'd recognise the ones that weren't. So, like, I might have met someone, you know, before I met Mara, in that 4-year gap, I actually cycled through about 3 or 4, 5 relationships, brief relationships, as I got closer and closer to my values. Because the stronger you put your value out, the faster people will be drawn to you. Yeah? It's like, you know what, yeah, that's the one.
I'll be remembering you
That's
now.
the anchor. It's like Christians. You know, why is the divorce rate low in the Christian community? Because the values match. The values match. Yeah? So, and it's the same. So you evolve through relationships. Get your values, stick to your values, use the relationships that come through to your life to teach you to become more congruent to your values. Just learn to stick, be honest, until you'll get to a point within yourself where you go, this is too hard unless I meet someone who fits this. That's what happens in the end, and then you let go of everything and boom.
Beauty. Thanks, Bruce.